Because I
Yeah,
thought cables were in pipes you can't see, but maybe are you looking at the terms then?
the big thing on any job, it's the containment to pull the cable, to terminate, to power on, to commissioning, right? Think data center. And there's a huge lack of information on cable pulling termination. So what we've done, it's very rarely in a model, unless you're doing modular wiring or something. We've created a plugin that takes the cable schedule and it imports it into the model and attaches a 3D geometry onto the panel to identify cable pulls and termination. When you walk into an electrical switch room and you see the cable pulled down to the panel with a temporary tag on it, you can pick it up and you have your headset on and you can see, okay, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's associated with this panel, and you click cable pulled and it updates on the 4D model to show that that cable is pulled, etc. And same for terminations. I suppose it allows us to track, 90% of schedule activities. If you look at any schedule, the cable pulling terminations are a huge portion of the schedule if it's done in details.
Welcome, everyone, to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and scheduling leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah Piippo, and I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
And I'm Owen Manning. I'm VP of Product Delivery at XYZ Reality. We're an augmented reality solution that helps you build right first time and track progress in real time.
Today, Owen is on the hot seat, and we are talking about project delays. Owen, you are a senior scheduler on a large-scale construction program with a history of systemic delays. The current project you are sitting on is facing a 6-week delay. You have many ideas on how to pull that delay in. How do you go about doing that? And then also use that as an example to advocate for bigger changes on the program.
Okay, very good. That's a nice one to be landed in.
Get you right into the hot seat.
Into the depth. So I assume a couple of assumptions. I've been on the project the whole time. I have a relationship with the team on site. I'm just going to assume that we don't have any advanced technology. It's just your typical scheduling tools and normal tracking.
Let's say I'm going to give you an easy way out. So I'll make this less hot of a seat. Let's say, on this project, you've been piloting XYZ technology, for example. It's not fully integrated, but you have the capability of it. It's like a contractor. They start throwing darts at a dartboard, and they're like, "Bring EVM in, bring XYZ in," Like it's late. Let's just fix it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. What I'll suggest is, because if we were implemented all the time, there would be no delay. I'll just clear it that way. Let's just say we're only brought in from the quality side of things.
The entire audience let out one giant groan.
So we've just been there from the quality point of view, and the progress hasn't been used. Let's just say it that way. Okay, so look, what I do first is I've identified as a 6-week delay, right? And I will I'll demonstrate it. I'll do a what if scenario, or I'll create kind of a fragment in the schedule showing the delay and the impact on the schedule. Because my background is quantity surveying and what do I know about construction, I will speak to the package manager involved or the supervisor involved and get that person's buy-in to make sure that they see the same thing I'm seeing. Because me going up the line to the project director, the offsite director, on my own standing, depending on my position, mightn't be as credible as going there with the person involved. So again, it's including the relevant parties and making sure they're seeing the exact same thing I'm seeing. To make it easy,
do you find they usually see the exact same thing? I mean, do you usually, or is it maybe they see the superficial thing and you're seeing a root level thing? I know that. To me, as you go up higher and higher, and we'll talk about the higher and higher later, getting them to understand and see it gets more challenging. But I definitely had some interesting conversations on site with folks where maybe you can almost agree to what the superficial cause of the lateness is, but then it's hard to get to the root. What are you seeing from your angle?
It depends, right? So what I found is some people don't want to see the delay because, it's their package. There's no way they left there be a problem. So it's hard to convince them, because it might look as a failure on their part. Or else you go there and they'll say, yeah, I know of a delay. That contractor gave me is terrible. or else I haven't got any material, or there's some other root cause of the issue. But ultimately, it's trying to lay it out in simple terms and to demonstrate it. Even demonstrate on a schedule, I would do that, but trying to demonstrate it in a model or something live, like 3D or 4D, etc., it's just a much better visual tool to show where the impact is. Like if you have a clash or something, you could show it on P6, or you could show it on a model integrated with the schedule. It just makes it that bit easier. So it's trying to get the package person involved, and have a kind of a joint presentation to higher ups on the project.
Is that something you would recommend for schedulers to pick up, just a basic, navigation of models?
Definitely. Look, when I was doing scheduling, I would get all the drawings, I would get the model, I'd speak to one of the people involved, like a construction manager, etc., to get like a simple thing. I will do a section through the model to see the install sequence, like what is the highest system and what is the lowest system, and I'll work my way down to make sure I'm building my schedule in that sequence. There's no point saying low level containment's going first when there's sprinkler and ventilation, everything going up. So I think having a good understanding of the model is very important, but being aware that the model is probably not finished yet. It's going to be continuously being updated. So you kind of have to use it as a bit of a bit of a tool, but assuming and knowing that it's going to change.
Oh, very, very interesting. Okay, so you've met with the project manager. You two have reached an alignment for whatever the delay is. Pick your a la carte choice of delay. What would you want? You want fire sprinklers? You want underground? You want electrical? What's this delay that we're talking about?
Let's say cable pulling.
Cable pulling. Electrical cable pulling. Great. Yeah. So electrical cable pulling is causing the 6-week delay. You have the delay. As you start to move now up that chain and try to explain this project delay, let's say you go to the project director. Walk me through how you structure that conversation and get pretty tactical with it, because I feel there are quite a few schedulers that seem to be content, for whatever reason, to kind of sit in the back, enter in the data, get the delay, maybe give that to the project manager, and then they cut the rope and walk away. But let's say, you're a real go-getter, you want to climb the ladder, you want to show that you can bring value to this project. Kind of walk me through those steps of, all right, now we're going to go talk to the project director and try and figure this out.
Yeah, look, it's very good, and it's great. For a planner or scheduler to bring that forward themselves, I think that would very much help them in their career development. I would try to make it as visual as possible. I would have maybe a presentation in some format, whatever you choose, it's handiest to digest, and show a lot of model, a lot of the schedule, and kind of have a very simple link from one to the other. Like, this is the progress out in site. This is where it should be. This is actually consistently underperforming from the rest of the project. Now, we got away with it in the earlier part of the project because there was some free flow, it wasn't on the critical path. But we've now hit the point where it's on the critical path, and they are 30% behind, and they have like an earned value analysis of negative 20%. So for every 30% they're achieving, they're losing 20, etc., something like that. So it's kind of using all the tools you've gathered to date to show that this progress to date is not going to achieve what you want. It's going to have this impact on the schedule. You might be assuming 6 week based on your earned value analysis. It mightn't be 6 weeks yet, but you're showing this is where it is now, this is likely where it's going to be, and this is how it's going to impact the critical path on the project.
Brilliant. How do you provide it as well solutions to the issue? Because you flag an issue, great. Everyone has problems. How would you work to bring some solutions to the table? Because I feel like that's kind of the cherry on top. Hey, we flagged this issue, but I guarantee the project directors immediately going to be like, well, Owen, how do we fix this issue? Because I got a zillion things going on, and help me help you.
Yeah, no, look, I know traditionally what do? We throw more bodies at it. Progress is terrible. Let's just throw 10 more people at it and hope for the best. I suppose hopefully at that stage I've looked at how they've been achieved to date, so they have a poor return on what they're doing, because they're not using cable jacks, or I'll have spoken to the cable pulling manager. I'm hoping that they already have a bit of an insight to why they're not going as fast. Maybe
Yeah.
they've already tried to improve that and spoken to someone else, and they're kind of their subcontractor, if they're losing, if they have a negative or value, that's off their own budget. We don't lose money because it's fixed price. But you're starting to see the impact of it because they're not achieving program, and that's where it's going to affect you. So hopefully you have identified a way that they could speed up. If it is a case of just throwing more bodies at it, and yeah, we lose money on it, but at least it doesn't delay the schedule, so it's the lesser of two evils, then that might be the simple solution. But I'd love to think that you've looked at the workflow and figured out a way to try to improve that workflow.
Right. Gotcha. When you do solutions, do you usually frame them in, like a 3, so like put more bodies at it, it's more expensive, might not work, fix the workflow, and then maybe there's like another one where you're like, actually, we could absorb this delay. It might push the project. However, it'll benefit some downstream work, right? Like, I mean, how do you frame up solution sets, for that audience?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I suppose giving people options, because ultimately it's the project director is probably going to make the decision, and if you come with one solution, then they're basically picking your solution, so it's yours. If you come with a couple of different scenarios, A, B, and C, and give your pros and cons against each one, they're still in charge. They're still picking it, but ultimately it's their choice. So you're laying it up for them to pick which one they want. Because like anything, it kind of needs to be their idea for it to be implemented. I know in the past, trying to get some, from a schedule point of view, it's that maybe lack of credibility on the background, getting someone who's been in construction for 30 years and started off as an electrician or a carpenter and worked their way up, they've seen it all, done it all. Trying to get them to go with some idea you've come up can be quite difficult. So I think if you lay on a couple of scenarios, they're still in control and they make the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. You picked an interesting delay, cable pulling, and cable pulls you can't see, so you couldn't necessarily use XYZ for a cable pull. So interesting pick on the delay. Let's keep going on this. So let's say
Do you
you
want me
implemented
to correct you on that? Because you can use XYZ for cable pulling. Yeah.
Okay. Well, walk me through that, because I
Yeah.
thought cables were in pipes you can't see, but maybe are you looking at the terms then?
No, so yeah, something similar to that. So basically, look, my background is construction with subcontractors, and the big thing on any job, it's the containment to pull the cable, to terminate, to power on, to commissioning, right? Think data center. And there's a huge lack of information on cable pulling termination. So what we've done, it's never in a model, or very similar, or very rarely in a model, unless you're doing modular wiring or something. But basically what we've done, we've created a plugin that takes the cable schedule and it imports it into a model and attaches a 3D geometry onto the panel to identify cable pulls and termination. So when you walk into an electrical switch room and you see the cable pulled down to the panel with a temporary tag on it, you can pick it up and you have your headset on and you could see, okay, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's associated with this panel, and you click cable pulled, and it updates on the 3D model then to show that, or the 4D model to show that that cable is pulled, etc. And same for terminations. So it just, I suppose it allows us to track, I suppose, 90% of schedule activities, there's, if you look at any schedule, the cable pulling terminations are a huge portion of the schedule if it's done in detail. So it's kind of helped us bridge the gap between, say visual based walking through, it can only pick up what it see or what it has in the model, etc. Whereas we're picking up kind of beyond that,
Yeah. I would challenge you on the 90%. I feel like with a bunch of stuff that isn't physical based construction that's in the schedule, between designs, permitting.
Sorry, construction
There it
install.
is.
Yeah.
Get those
No,
asterisks out there.
Yeah. No,
Something
to be
that,
fair, yeah. That's a good point.
something that XYZ may want to look into in the future. Getting off that rabbit trail, back onto the main path. We want to go company wide, programmatically. The director of construction for your project loved your idea, was like, wow, go save me the 6 weeks. But now you're starting to look at this from, hey, we had the solution, we used XYZ, we checked the cable pulls and terms. but we're kind of only piloting XYZ in this project, and maybe this could save across all projects. You're not the VP who sits in the room who says, go fix this, and everybody goes, does it. You got to figure out how to make this happen. Now, what's your strategy to use that previous example to go make a big change?
Yeah, look, it's a very good point, and in any company we deal with, there's generally some champion who has used it and loved it, and they want to sell it internally. I know when I was with contractors, I got some technology into the company I was working with, and I was passionate about it because it saved me a lot of issue. It helped me an awful lot. So generally, you would identify a couple of champions there, and they'll do your selling for you within the company because they've seen the value, and it's trying to get that across the group. With
When
stuff
you go
like
talk to these, so when you go find the champions, would it make sense to sell the 6-week delay as opposed to the technology when you're talking to find champions? Do you know what I mean? Because I guess it depends who the champion is. But to me, I've usually started with the problem and then kind of kept the solution potentially in the background. I mean, how do you find good champions?
it's generally they kind of find us. So we'll get into some companies. Some company will say we want to use us, and you'll find that the person who barely brought you in mightn't even be the champion going forward because it might be an engineer who's used it and the quality manager basically.
Oh, sorry. Let me switch this. You're
Yeah.
not Owen from XYZ.
Okay.
You're Owen, senior scheduler,
Yeah.
and you got to do this
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
to get promoted, so that way you can buy. I don't know. What do you like? Cars, vacations,
Vacation. Yeah. I'll take a vacation.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you can get that vacation. How do you take that 6-week delay and then go find and go that route? How do you do that?
Yeah, look, and I suppose this is because in my previous company, I did find a solution for something that I really enjoyed, and it saved me and my team a lot of time. I sold it internally to my director first, the business unit director, and I said, I think we should implement this because it saves us time, money. It can help with this, and this. I listed out for I presented a PowerPoint presentation with all the pros and cons. And he said, great, sounds good. Now I want other directors, business unit leaders to build into it so we can spread the cost against multiple jobs because it was kind of an open license once you buy it. So he wants the cost saved. So I then had to arrange a meeting with the other business unit leads and basically pitch the same thing to them. So I start off with the pros and cons, pros mostly, but start off with the pros and how this is going to benefit each of them. It's going to give them information quicker. It's going to protect you from delays and claims. It's going to do this, this, and this. And it starts going off in their own head. Okay, this is something we need. If I had a project where we have say 6 weeks, like think of any project, the cost of liquidated damages or even your prelims for
So
staying on a
much.
project is huge. So
Yep.
it could be millions, right? So assuming I have that in my back pocket, it would sell itself.
Great.
And you start calculating the ROI and how it'll be implemented. So that's kind of where I go, and that's what I actually did with a different software in my previous role.
Yeah. Any thoughts on when you go pick that next senior director business unit leader? Do you pick an easier one? Do you pick a harder one? Do you even care? Do you just line them all up and knock them down? Is there any background work where you're kind of working with their number twos? How do you go? I mean, because that could be if you were a little bit terrified to go to your business unit leader, and now
Yeah,
she goes, go to your other business unit leaders.
yeah.
That can be another daunting challenge for folks.
Mm.
What, like, how did you even think about that, Care, or what are your thoughts?
I suppose I didn't have much options, right? So I stuck to the people I knew within the business. So I was probably mechanically biased in this position. I knew the electrical business unit leader for data centers, etc., and for the pharmaceutical side of the business. So I kind of said, look, they know me. Hopefully, they trust what I'm saying, and I'm not just selling magic beans or whatever. So I had that credibility, and so that's who I went to. And since that now, I know it's grown throughout the rest of the company since I've left as well. So I suppose the positive feedback loop has spread it across the entire group, you know. So it's kind of, once you sell it to enough people, it'll just take off organically.
Yeah. Any setbacks along that journey you were talking about? Any sorts of, did you have any failures or any points where you doubted yourself and you
It,
thought this might not work out?
do you know what? It took up a lot of my time. So I was managing, suppose, the planning and scheduling for a business unit that maybe did 400 million turnover. And I found myself on a lot of technical support calls with people who couldn't use the system. And
Yeah.
they actually, because they wouldn't have known me, maybe some end user on for the system. And I was getting phone calls, like it was IT or customer support at like 6 in the evening saying this doesn't work. And I was like, what are you ringing me for? Like, ring tech support. So it was an awful lot of work. But ultimately, look, the company benefited from it, so it's great. And the awful lot of work is over at the starting period because people start getting used to it. They start showing it to other people. They then become the point of contact and it kind of spreads out like
Yeah.
that. But the initial period, I must say, took up a lot of my time. So it's just
Yeah.
something to be aware of.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned too that you were passionate about it at the beginning.
Hmm.
Is that something that when you're looking for ideas to go do this for, since it's going to be an awful lot of work, did it just happen that you were lucky and that idea came and was passionate to you? Or was it because your passion helped to drive that forward?
Uh, I think I got passionate about the product because it solved a real problem I had, to be honest. So I kind of said, look, this is amazing. More people should be using it, you know. And it kind of, I had to sell it internally, or else maybe even my business unit wouldn't have used it because maybe for one business unit it was a bit too expensive, but spread out it made it a bit cheaper. So it was in my interest to sell it to more people, but it was also in their interest to use it because it was a very valuable tool. So I would say I got passionate about it because it was solving a real problem I had.
Yeah. You started digging in, and
Yeah.
as you dug, you're like, wow, this is actually really cool. Yeah. I found that sometimes that for people who, as you start to go solve problems you might not be engaged with or find interesting at first, if you kind of roll up your sleeves and keep going, that kind of passion and excitement might come as you build the solution. And I would highly recommend, once you have that spark, to really lean in, because yeah, things are going to be tough. You're going to be taking calls at 6 p.m. at night. Maybe you have to work some extra hours, but they will benefit for you in the long term. All right, Owen, we're coming to the end of this journey. We've spread the solution across the company. Really dive in and kind of give me that, you know, XYZ sales pitch of how does this stay as a, long-term solution. We'll link a bunch of stuff to XYZ in the show notes so you guys can go down there and check it out. But, talk to me a little bit about what really differentiates your solution and product and company from some of the others out there on the market. I'll tell you right now, I'm a huge fan of visual-based progressing. I definitely think that augmented reality is the future. It offers so many solutions and capabilities. And as we start to really increase our generative scheduling power, having that sort of detailed data is going to just make some of these models explode with value. But for some people on the fence or unsure of, where do you see XYZ fitting in and benefiting?
Yeah, no, look, definitely. From our point of view, it's builders building from holograms. Basically, it's you're spending all this money on a 3D model in Revit or whatever format you're working at, and then you're printing a 2D drawing and sending it out to a person to install. And I was on a large scale hospital project. It was a €2 billion project, and we were producing drawings, thousands of drawings at a time. So we would freeze the model to print the drawings. And literally the day after we froze it, the model changed. And we had these 2,000 drawings that, like, we weren't willing to pay for more drawings to be printed. So we were stuck with them, right? Where our system has is, look, you have the model live in front of your eyes every day. If it's been updated last night, you just re-upload it in the morning and you're live again. So it makes sure that you're building right first time and accurately. We're on a project in America at the moment to helping setting out, and they've increased their speed by 5 times. Basically, they're setting out struts and unistrut, and we've increased their speed 5 times. We're
Where's that speed increase come from? Is that the quality check? You're able to then move on to the next one? Is that better process flows?
So, give an example. What they're doing actually, they're installing struts at high level in a data center basically, and it's a 10-meter high space. And what they used to do is use a total station and try to do setting out and moving. And they tried, lasers up from the ground. We're basically standing there at the heads of the room, looking up with our laser pointer. Someone's in the MUP, and basically we're pointing, yeah, install there, and they tick it, install there, install there. So they're marking out. So it's just how fast, because the model's there pinned to the correct position and you're just telling them where to go. So you can pick up the entire room from one spot basically if you've the line of sight, and it's just increasing speed massively in the area. So that's the kind of stuff that can help with the install, speed up the progress. As I said, ensuring it's built right first time, so you're not spending all that extra time on rework, etc. And we spoke about the 6-week delay in the schedule. So basically, you'd be tracking progress live in the field. Hopefully, you've identified that problem early in the process to know that you can deal with it prior to the 6 weeks happening. So everyone has access to it on their phone, on their tablet, up at their computer. So you have live progress data, spent versus actual, to show that you're starting to slip on a schedule as it's happening. So it allows you to action it as early as possibility.
Amazing. Well, folks, that wraps it up for this show. I would love for Owen to come back in a couple months and own me like he just did on the cable polls
and terminations.
And terminations and say, well, actually, Micah, we do have permitting now in XYZ. I don't know if the person who's signing the permit's going to be wearing the headset or how that's going to work. I'll leave it to you to figure that out, but really appreciate it. Any final thoughts or anything you want to leave the crowd with before we jump?
No, look, as I said, if you want to reach out to me, you'll find me on LinkedIn, or else you can visit our website and xyzreality.com.
Perfect. All right, folks, before you take off for this week, if you could do one thing for me, I know that you're thinking of someone right now who could get some value out of this show. You're probably doing the dishes, you're walking the dog, you're on a plane, and just think about one person who could get some value out of this week's episode. Hit that share button, share with them the show. We're trying to grow our audience so we can provide you more value, all for free, and help grow planning and scheduling. You can't get a degree in planning and scheduling, folks, and so there needs to be a force driving education forward, and we're happy to do that, but we need your help and support. So please go share the podcast, and we will see you next week.